She did not have to say it. That is the first thing you need to understand about this moment and why it landed the way it did. Shen Yue has spent years being one of the most carefully composed public figures in Chinese entertainment, a person who understands intimately the difference between what you share and what you protect, between the version of yourself that belongs to the audience and the version that belongs only to you. She knows that line. She has lived on it long enough to know exactly where it sits. And when she crossed it, when she let something through that clearly came from the private side of that boundary rather than the public one, it was not an accident. It was a choice, a deliberate, considered, completely human choice to let people into something real. And what she let them into was a nickname, a single word, or maybe two, that she has apparently been using for Dylan Wang in private, a small linguistic invention that somehow managed to contain an entire relationship inside it. The internet has not stopped talking about it since. There is something specific that happens when a famously private person shares something small and intimate. The reaction is almost always disproportionate to the size of the thing itself, and it is disproportionate for a reason. When someone gives you a press release, when someone delivers a prepared statement, when someone shares the version of their life that has been approved and sanitized and shaped for public consumption, you receive it and you move on. It does not stay with you. It does not feel like anything except information. But when someone shares something that was clearly not meant for general distribution, something that lived in the private language of a specific relationship between two specific people, it feels like a gift. It feels like being trusted. And being trusted by someone you have admired from a distance for years produces a response that is genuinely emotional rather than merely interested. That is exactly what happened here. And it explains why the clip spread the way it spread, and why the comments underneath it read less like fan reactions and more like personal confessions. If you are not subscribed to this channel yet, please subscribe right now, because this is the kind of story that only gets more interesting as it develops, and you need to be here for every single part of what comes next. The nickname itself, and we are going to talk about it properly, about what it means and why she chose it and what it reveals, carries something inside it that goes beyond affection. Nicknames in relationships are their own private language. They are the verbal equivalent of an inside joke, of a shared reference that exists only between two people, of the particular shorthand that develops when two people have spent enough time together that they have started to invent new words for what they mean to each other. The fact that Shen Yue has one for Dylan Wang tells you something before you even know what it is. It tells you that there has been enough private time, enough shared space, enough of the unglamorous ordinary texture of actual closeness for a nickname to have become necessary. You do not give someone a nickname from a distance. You give them one from inside something. And the name she gave him speaks directly to how she sees him when the cameras are not there and the public image is not the point. It is tender without being saccharine. It is specific without being explainable to anyone who has not seen exactly what she has seen in him. It is the kind of name that makes complete sense the moment you hear it and makes you feel, just for a second, like you understand something about Dylan Wang that his entire professional presentation has never quite communicated. Like you are seeing the version of him that exists only in her eyes and in the private moments that those eyes have witnessed. Fans who heard it described an immediate and involuntary emotional response. Not the performed enthusiasm of fan culture, but something quieter and more genuine than that. The specific feeling of watching two people's private world become briefly visible and feeling moved by what you see there. Several people in the comments described feeling like they were intruding on something, which is itself a remarkable response to a piece of celebrity content. The feeling of intrusion only comes when something is genuinely private. You cannot accidentally stumble into manufactured intimacy. The fact that people felt like they were seeing something they weren't entirely supposed to see is the clearest possible evidence that what Shen Yue shared was real. Dylan Wang's reaction when the nickname has been mentioned in his presence is its own separate story worth examining. Because he did not perform surprise. He did not perform the mild embarrassment that celebrities sometimes deploy when personal details surface publicly as a way of acknowledging them without confirming them. What crossed his face instead was something much more unguarded than either of those responses. A recognition, immediate and unfiltered, followed by something that looked very much like the specific warmth of a person hearing something that genuinely belongs to their private life suddenly spoken out loud in a public space. It was there for only a moment, but the fans who were watching caught it, and they understood exactly what it meant. It meant the nickname was real. It meant he knew it. It meant that the private world Shen Yue had just made briefly visible was one he also lived in. That confirmation, wordless and unplanned as it was, completed something that Shen Yue's disclosure had started. Together, in the space of a few seconds of unscripted footage, they managed to communicate more about the actual nature of their relationship than years of official statements and careful public appearances have ever come close to conveying. A nickname shared, a recognition caught on camera, the private language of two people becoming briefly, beautifully audible to a world that has been trying to understand them for a very long time. What is interesting is what the nickname does to the larger narrative around them. Because every story needs a detail that makes it real, that transforms it from a collection of events into something you can actually feel.